Good afternoon, everybody. This is Shivakumar. I am founder and principal consultant at ValueCon, a niche HR consulting firm. I have about 20 plus years of corporate HR work experience, starting with Infosys, moving on to OnMobile, Saskin, and a couple of other companies. In my last 6 years, I've been heading HR for multiple organizations, handling operations in India and outside of India. As part of ValueCon, we work closely with startups and SMEs, especially with their executive leadership teams, to define the HR strategy and design HR programs and implement them for the organizations. Welcome to the video chat. I'm happy to take your questions. So Gauri is asking, I have 9 years of experience in non-HR background. Now want to restart my career in HR. Currently, I'm pursuing PGDHRM from Symbiosis through distance learning. Also, I did an HR internship. Is this sufficient to get entry in HR? What else should I do? Okay. So Gauri, first things first, you have mentioned that you have 9 years of experience in non-HR background. In that sense, you have, I'm assuming, some amount of professional corporate work experience, may not be in HR. And now that you want to restart your career in HR, you have done the right thing by taking a course through PGDHRM at Symbiosis. I think what you should do, Gauri, is start applying for opportunities in companies. You might get a break as an HR intern, HR fresher. The companies may or may not give you weightage for your 9 years of past work experience, but that doesn't matter. I think once you gain an entry into an HR organization, and it could be any of the functions, it could be recruitment, it could be HRBP, it could be HR operations, combined with your learning at Symbiosis, you can get started. I think this is a good start. And as you continue to work with the organization, you realize your strengths, your preferences, and then you may choose to decide on which aspect of HR you wish to specialize in. So I think this is a good start. So Subhash, I will go to the next question. Subhashri Mohanta is asking, I have 6 years experience in IT working in purely technical domain. I've been on a career break since August 2016. I wish to restart my career but do not want to work in the same field. I'm interested in HR roles but do not have any experience. What are my options? Pursuing HR higher studies is not an option for me. Okay, so Subhashri, like Gauri, you have worked for 6 years purely in a technical domain, which is very good because any kind of work experience in a corporate environment is useful. It doesn't matter whether you are part of a technical domain or a non-technical domain. Now that you have been on break since August 2016, which is close to about 3.5 years, and want to get into HR, I think it's important for you to first ask yourself, why do you want to get into HR? Is it because you find that technical roles are difficult to get and are very challenging, or will make you feel stretched, and hence you want to take something light? If that is the option and that is the intent, I'm assuming, then I suggest you please reevaluate why you want to get into HR. So my request to everybody is please get into HR role only and only if you are interested in pursuing a career in HR, not because you think you can settle down in something relatively less taxing or less stretching, because the way the HR function is evolving today and going forward, it's going to be equally challenging, if not less, than a technical domain. And since you have said that you cannot pursue higher studies, then I suggest that you start applying to companies. You may not get an opportunity with, say, a training function or an HRBP function, but chances are high that you might be able to join the recruitment function of an organization or a recruitment agency, which is a good beginning. And once you get into the recruitment function, gain an understanding of the recruitment function, please evaluate if that's what you would like to do. And if you wish to continue, I would suggest try a distance learning program, if not a full-time program in HR. And I'm sure you can make your way and grow in HR. I hope that answers your question. Okay, so we have another question, this time from Hamida. It says what job function of HR will be interesting and will be better for a person basically from marketing and finance who is not from any HR academic background and fresher. So please suggest for marketing and for finance. Okay, so first things first, Hamida. Uh, I'm assuming, going by your post here, that you have some kind of specialization or dual specialization in marketing and finance. And now you wish to do HR. So like I said earlier, please ask yourself why having specialized or in marketing and finance you want to get into HR. And if you still are clear that you want to pursue a career in HR, I think you should start applying to recruitment agencies primarily because they are always on the lookout for enthusiastic freshers who bring a high level of energy and need not have a background in HR. So you can start with a recruitment agency because that's easier to get in. And once you settle down in the recruitment function, then it would be worthwhile for you to pursue some degree, if not full-time, at least part-time in HR, and if not part-time, at least a long-distance course in HR, so that you understand the core subjects in HR, and then decide where you want to grow from recruitment to the next area. I hope this answers your question. So while we wait for more questions to come, uh, uh, a few things that I would want to share with all of you. Please do not opt for HR because it seems like an easy role to do, or it seems like a comfortable role to do, and it seems like a role where you can probably work within specific timings, because those days of HR are gone. In any organization today, the expectation is that HR is up to speed, HR understands business, and HR is in a position to influence the business outcomes. Hence, the expectations from the HR professionals are very, very high, no different than expectations uh, from any other function. So please evaluate why you want to get into HR and choose HR if and only if you want to pursue a career in HR, and make sure you get relevant qualifications, relevant expertise in terms of learning in the areas of HR. Okay, so I think there is one related question from Hamida, who says, how to have a successful career in HR? What are the tips and tricks to grow in HR career? Well, I don't know about the tips and tricks to grow in HR career, but what I would definitely recommend, Hamida, like any other function, please build your capability and expertise in HR, and always be open to learning. The more you learn, the easier for it will it be for you to grow in your career, whether in HR or any other field. There are really no shortcuts, no tips and tricks to grow in HR. Okay, so we have a question from Suman Vikram. Suman is asking, I have 13 plus years of experience in non-HR roles since 2014 on a career break. To gain some experience, I'm supporting a firm in her organic milk startup. Okay, supporting a friend in her organic milk startup as HR and admin for a small team. If I have to get back to corporate in HR domain, how should I approach? So Suman, I'm happy to see that you have started working after a career break, which is the right first step. And it doesn't matter how big or how small the company is, as long as you are keen and enthusiastic to learn and grow in HR. So now that you've already started in working with this startup with your friend, I suggest that please spend at least a couple of years and make sure that you're able to implement HR related programs, HR related policies for this startup. I don't know how big this startup is. I don't know how many employees are there, but I would suggest that since you're also from a non-HR background, enroll into an HR course, a long distance course if you can't pursue it part-time, and read about HR that's available in various HR websites. And like SHRM is a very good resource for a lot of HR subject matter inputs. And then please implement what you have learned after making sure that it is the right thing for your startup. And once you do that, maybe in parallel, as you complete your HR course through long distance, then you can start applying for corporates. But definitely make sure that you spend at least 2 years with this startup. It's important that we spend time in a company so that we get to learn, implement, see the results of what we're implementing, and make changes if required. That's very important. Okay, so Nitin Srivastava is asking, I have 5 years of work experience as a QA in international BPO. Now, after 10 years of career break, I want to restart a career in HR. I have done one online course for HR journalists from a private institute. Is this sufficient to secure a job? What else do I need to do? So, Nitin, if you've been following my responses to the previous questions, the response is going to be on very similar lines because the question is very similar. I think a few other questions were around these same lines that have worked in the past in a non-HR function, then taken a career break, and now want to restart a career in HR. So first things first, please enroll for a proper HR program, a long distance program. You could try universities or colleges like XLRI, which are very good. They obviously have their criteria to gain an admission, but if not, any other reputed university or college which is offering long distance course in HR, that's step one. Like I said earlier, it is always easier to start working in the recruitment function, especially in recruitment firms, recruitment agencies. And I think you should start applying, do that. Once you settle down in the recruitment function and in parallel, once you've completed your course in HR, that's when you should start looking out for other opportunities in corporates, simply because a corporate today may not be interested in hiring somebody with a non-HR academic background, with a non-HR work experience, and coming after a break. It just doesn't make sense for any regular corporate to look at that kind of a profile for HR when there are so many experienced HR professionals with a background in HR. So I suggest it's easier to start with a recruitment firm or an agency and then grow in the HR function. I hope this helps. So while we wait for more questions, my request is that HR, like any other function, say marketing, finance, operations, or engineering, is a profession by itself. And to succeed in any profession, we would need the right amount of exposure in terms of formal education in that field, which is one, followed by a relevant work experience. And it's important that we try to gain both the formal education, and if we have not got it in the past, I think today there are a lot of opportunities in terms of long distance programs to pursue it and make an entry through a recruitment firm or an agency simply because it's easier to get in than a regular corporate, and then start pursuing your full-time aspirations in HR. That is important. It's just like somebody wanting to grow in finance cannot grow in finance without having relevant background in accounting or say auditing or taxation, right? It's important that they have that relevant background. Which could be a BCom, MCom. Ideally, it could be a CA, ICAA kind of, or a CFA kind of a course. So that's important for that person to grow in finance. The same would hold good for the HR domain as well. Okay, so we have a question from Meenakshi. Meenakshi, I've been working as HR for the past 10 years now. How do I grow and become successful in what I do? So Meenakshi, happy to know that you've been HR for 10 years. So through your comments, I don't know what area of HR you've worked in these last 10 years. Is it one specific area of HR, like say HR operations, recruitment, HRBP, so on and so forth, or have you dabbled in multiple areas? Now, if you wish to grow and become successful as an HR professional, then 2 to 3 things are very important. First and foremost is your capability and expertise in your domain, which is HR. Now, that's absolutely non-negotiable, right? Uh, we don't want to go to a doctor who does not have an expertise in treatment, right? So we want to be very sure that the doctor is competent. And it's no different for any professional, whether it's HR or marketing. So make sure that you have built your capability in the HR domain, and actually you've been learning and updating yourself. That's first. Two, increasingly, companies expect the HR professional to have a very sound and good understanding of the business and the talent dynamics, which means the HR professional needs to understand the direction in which the business is growing, the competition, the market demands, and what's the competitive advantage of the organization. That's two. Three, it's important to understand how HR can, through its talent management function, create a competitive advantage for the organization in the marketplace, which means the kind of skills that are required to be hired, the kind of people that need to be identified for future growth and promotions, the kind of training, skilling that is required so that the workforce is prepared for the existing challenges and for the newer challenges. We've all been reading about how things like artificial intelligence and automation are really driving changes in the business model, right? And which means we need to make sure as HR professionals that our workforce is ready and capable of delivering with the new challenges, right? So it's very important to understand what kind of skilling initiatives, training is required for the company's future growth. And I think if you can focus on these 1, 2, 3, I'm absolutely confident that you will grow and become successful in your HR career. I hope that helps. Okay, so Hamida has a related query. She says, apart from recruiting candidates and payroll, what are the jobs would get to apply for? So Hamida, like I said earlier, HR has multiple areas, whether it's recruitment, HR operations, payroll is part of HR operations, appraisals, performance management, compensation, training, learning and development, so on and so forth. In fact, OD, organizational development, is one more area. But because you said you have a background in marketing and finance and you're a fresher, which means no work ex, and you want to get into HR, the relatively easy way to get into HR is through a recruitment firm. And I would suggest that you look at this as an option one. In parallel, pursue your program in HR, a long distance program or a part-time program ideally, and then see how you want to grow and explore into various other aspects of HR. I hope that helps. So while we wait for some more questions to get loaded, I think the future of HR is going to be quite different from what we have seen in the past. So HR traditionally started as a personnel function in the factories, and the focus was on compliance and ensuring that HR administers workers' benefits and payroll. Of course, apart from recruitment, right? These were the key areas. But if you look at the direction in which HR is growing, we are talking about we already have actually employees working remotely. We are talking about a lot of automation and artificial intelligence coming in. In fact, if you've been following the progress in HR, chatbots are kind of replacing people-to-people interface for query resolution, right? Now, chatbots are actually interacting with potential candidates. They are interacting with employees to answer queries with respect to policies, processes, right? Which means these chatbots are going to be there 24/7, 365 days a year. And which means to that extent, we do not need people to really keep clarifying queries of employees. That can be done by a machine. And the same way, from a recruitment standpoint, if you see artificial intelligence is driving matching of proper profiles to candidates, identifying relevant or the most suitable candidate for an existing job description. Right? What was earlier done manually, machines are doing it. Then we're talking about computer-based assessment, right, or computer-based testing. So which means candidates are being put through tests, online tests and assessments, and there's no need of an individual human being to administer these tests, which mean again machines are doing those jobs. So the kind of roles that are going to be available and looked out for people in HR is where there is HR competency and capability to understand the business, to understand the people dynamics, to understand the market demands. Now, those are things today machines cannot help much, and that's where the HR professional needs to come in and use his or her experience of HR in the domain, understand the market dynamics, understand the organizational goals, what kind of business we are in, what kind of challenges are there, and then design programs and interventions to make sure that the organization is successful at the marketplace. Now, that's the expectation from HR. HR cannot be looked down as one admin activity, administrating payroll and making sure that the company policies are being followed. I think the role is growing beyond that, and that's very important for all of us to understand. Okay, so we have a question from Anu Thomas. Anu Thomas is asking, hi, can one start their career in HR field with a short-term certification in HR after a career gap of 5 years? So like I have been saying all along during this video chat, Anu, a short-term certification in HR may or may not help in getting you the HR job of your choice. Nevertheless, I'm assuming that you want to get into HR because you're keen on pursuing HR as a profession and not because you're coming after a career gap. I just want to make sure that all of us on this video chat clearly understand that HR is a full-time occupation, HR is a full-time profession like any other. And now that if you've decided to get into HR after a career gap of 5 years, while the short-term certification will help to give some understanding of HR, it's very important that you pursue a proper HR program, which by what I mean by proper HR program is either an MBA or a PGDBA with a specialization in HR from one of the good universities or colleges. And once you do that, it's easier to get into an HR organization because you will also have the relevant exposure and experience in terms of the subject and content. In the event that you are not in a position to pursue a full-time course, then I strongly recommend that you enroll in a long-distance HR program, join one of the recruitment agencies or firms, simply because it's easier to get in, and you will get to see how a recruitment function works, right? In terms of how the requirements come from the clients, what's a job description, how does a job description be designed, how does one search for appropriate candidates, how does one post a job in a job portal, how does one speak to candidates, shortlist candidates, how does one interact with the hiring manager to understand their requirements. So the entire gamut of activities in the recruitment function, right up to arranging for the interview of the candidate and following up for feedback, and then if you do have an opportunity to look at salary negotiations, offer discussion, find out how serious the candidate is about taking up this opportunity, I think that will help. So that's the way to take it forward is my suggestion. So we have a couple of other questions now. There is Ruchi Kamra who's asking, I have 9 years of teaching experience. I have done BTech and MTech in computer science. I want to switch career from teaching. How can I join HR related job profile? So first things first, Ruchi, having done your MTech in computer science, I do not know why you want to get into HR job profile. and you have relevant teaching experience as well. Now, assuming that you want to get into HR because of a passion for HR, because you like HR, I'm just thinking aloud, saying that you can, in your specific case, because you have your master's in computer science and you have relevant teaching experience of 9 years, you might want to see if you want to be part of the technical training arm of a company or an institution, right? So there are a lot of organizations which require qualified trainers to train their employees in the latest skills, especially with respect to IT. And since you're MTech in computer science, in your specific case, I would recommend that you explore joining an organization uh, which combined with your teaching experience in their training and development function, where you can focus on training on the technical skills. And once you spend time there training employees, then you can decide for yourself if you wish to grow into the training area or if you want to switch to another area of HR. And if you do decide to switch to another area of HR, like I've been saying earlier, make sure that you pursue a long distance program in HR, and so that will help you continue your training in this particular organization and decide for yourself if you want to switch from training into any other area of HR. Yes, that's my take. So we'll move to the next question. We have Augustina who's saying, I'm a housewife with a career gap of 8 years. I did HR certification course, but I'm unable to get a job because of my career. What should I do? So Augustina, like I said earlier for Anu and few other queries, an HR certification course does not guarantee a job. In fact, no certification course for that matter guarantees the job. What I would strongly recommend is that try looking at the recruitment firms, recruitment agencies, because they are always on the lookout for professionals with decent communication skills and good computer skills, right? I think it will be worthwhile for you to make an entry into HR through the recruitment function at one of the recruitment agencies or firms, and in parallel pursue a long distance program in HR, and then decide whether you want to continue being part of the recruitment function or you want to switch to a different function. That would be my suggestion. Okay, so we have Meenakshi asking, how is digital transformation going to affect the HR field? How do we stay updated with the digital trends? So Meenakshi, digital transformation is going to affect all fields, right? Not just the HR field. So like I said earlier, a lot of digitization has already happened in HR in the last a decade or a couple of decades. I'll give you a very simple example. Maybe 2 decades back, all the employee information was stored in physical files, right? So every time an employee joined, his or her mark sheets, their prior work experience, letter copies, salary revision letters, their background check papers, they were all in physical files. But if you see in the last 2 decades, most companies have done away with that practice. Now all this data is stored on a server in a soft copy, right? So you don't have huge walls and huge storerooms physically taking up space for employee data. One. The same thing holds good for example, training programs. Today, you'll see a lot of companies encouraging their employees to take training programs online, and the assessment is done online, which means there is not necessarily that all employees need to be gathered in a physical classroom and attend a training program. Employees can take training of their choice at their own space, at the comfort of their home, at a time of their choice. So these are clearly trends that have already come in HR. Going forward, I think these changes are only going to become rapid and faster. So like I mentioned about how automation is bringing in chatbots, how machine learning is bringing in automatic sorting of resumes, automatic matching of CVs. And I think all of us, including the existing HR professionals and the upcoming HR professionals need to make sure that they constantly keep reading and understand what are the areas that digitization is happening, and get hands-on exposure in their current organization if they have an opportunity. If not, at least make sure that they keep reading and understand what is happening, so that they are not caught completely unaware about the digital transformation happening. Digital transformation is already started happening. The pace is only going to accelerate going forward. There's absolutely no doubt. And if you don't stay updated by constantly reading about this, then we are going to stay back in our careers. So we'll wait for more questions to come. The key is learning till we get more questions. I wish to reiterate the key is learning, and this holds good for any professional field. It could be sports, it could be dance, it could be music, it could be performing arts, and obviously it could be corporate professional experiences, whether marketing, finance, or operations. It's very, very important for all of us to keep learning, keep updated, uh, discuss it with like-minded professionals. If possible, attend seminars, events. There are a lot of professional events, seminars that are happening in most of the cities. And essentially keep yourself up to date, because it's important to at least understand what's happening. And unless one understands and knows that these are developments happening, one might be caught on the wrong foot. I hope I've been able to clarify the questions that most of you have been asking. Feel free to ask any questions relevant to this particular topic about pursuing a career in HR and growing in HR. Okay, so Divya is asking, what would be the future of an HR generalist role? How to keep ourselves up to date with the latest payroll structures in the market? Okay, so Divya, if I understand your question correctly, you are saying that you want to know how to keep ourselves up to date about the latest payroll structures in the market. Okay, and the other question is, what would be the future of an HR generalist role? So I'll take one question at a time. So first, I will talk about the future of an HR generalist role. So the HR generalist today is somebody who understands the business, understands what kind of talent is required for the business, understands the entire gamut of induction, onboarding, performance management, compensation benefits, training, exit analysis function, right? So it's a very broad role. Now, every organization will continue to require HR generalists, simply because unless it's a large organization, they may not want to invest or afford to invest in specialized aspects of compensation benefits or recruitment or training, right? So a larger company will go with specialized roles, but more smaller companies would look forward to having an HR generalist on their role. So that extent, the HR generalist role will continue to exist and continue to thrive. If your question is that, will there be a future for an HR generalist role? My answer is yes. The role will continue to thrive. Now I'll come to your second question, saying how to keep ourselves up to date with the latest payroll structures in the market. I think from payroll structure, things change very little. The only thing that probably changes is the tax impact. If the tax slabs change, that's one. Two, companies would like to say that how they can leverage the newer tax slabs to put more money into the hand of the employee with minimal outflow to tax. To that extent, it's important for us to understand the new tax slabs, the tax impacts, and it could mean sitting and discussing with our colleagues in the accounts and finance team and understanding the taxation impact on the payroll, and in parallel reading up about what kind of novel benefits program companies can implement to make sure that employees get more more money in their hand and more benefits with minimal tax outflow. So it's really about reading. And if you can manage to find the time, and if you can afford, do attend seminars around the newer compensation benefit structures. That will help as well. So we'll wait for more questions. Till the questions come in, my sincere request to everybody here is that please invest in learning and upgrading. Right? Everybody has to upskill. Everybody has to learn. Maybe at times we have to really unlearn what we had learned in the past and relearn. So I would say unlearn, learn, relearn is absolutely mandatory. It's no more optional. So gone are the days, maybe where some of our parents would have worked or done one particular function, either in a factory or in a bank or some other organization, and the job function did not change much. But the way things have changed in the last decade, and the way it will continue to change going forward, is going to be much more rapid. So what worked today will not work maybe 3 years down the line, and what worked 5 years back may not work today, right? Just look at the kind of changes that we're seeing, the technology perspective. Now, WhatsApp is something that all of us are using today, right? And maybe 5 years back, hardly anybody used WhatsApp, right? And everybody is today on WhatsApp. And then you see TikTok, and then you see other events. Similarly, maybe 20 years back, everybody used to apply jobs through hard copy, scan through appointment section in newspapers. I think with the advent of Naukri, nobody ever looks at the newspaper. Everybody goes to Naukri and similar job portals. Now we are seeing even more newer technologies coming, and unless one learns to keep themselves updated and upgraded, the organization may not be keen to hire you. So that's very important, please. And please look at any investment that you do in terms of your own upskilling and upgrading and learning as an investment for the long term. It is important. Please don't look at it as a cost, because unless we invest in ourselves and learn and grow, we will not be able to bring or add value to our customers. And we are all the market determines our value based on what we bring to the table. So it is not so much necessarily about our past academic credentials or past work ethics, but what we are going to bring to a table going forward. So while we wait for questions, today there is plenty of opportunities for somebody wanting to learn, upgrade, upskill. There are so many online programs, online training programs that's available for people to enroll and learn. So I think it only calls for commitment in terms of time and dedication in terms of effort, apart from some investment in terms of the cost of the course. I think the commitment and dedication is absolutely mandatory. So while we wait for more questions, I also want to mention that a career break for whatever reasons, could be personal or professional reason, does not mean the end of the career. I think it is perfectly okay for us to have taken a career break to meet to a priority at that point of time. And when we come back to work again, I think it's important to keep telling ourselves that we'll be able to contribute and bring value. I think that self-talk, the positive self-talk, is absolutely essential and important. Please do not lose your confidence. Please do not lose hope. I think fundamentally as a person, you remain the same, right? A career gap does not mean that you're changed as a person. All that would have happened is you would not have been part of a workplace during the period of the gap. And all the more reason that you should probably invest in yourself, in enrolling for professional courses, professional programs, attending networking events, attending professional events, and reading and learning about things. I think that's important. Okay, so we have Pallavi who's asking, can one move laterally in the HR field? I have been in recruitments all along, but now want to try my hand at payrolls and compensation. So Pallavi, the answer to the question is yes. Uh, the challenge is going to be that it is easier to do this change at times in your existing organization than in a newer organization. And let me explain to you why. Now, in an existing organization, let's say if you've been part of recruitment all along and want to try your hand in payroll, you can always discuss it with your manager and say that I'm keen and I'm interested to try this out, and please give me an opportunity. And as long as you're not expecting a pay hike or a change in role or a promotion, I think most organizations would be willing to give this opportunity to an existing employee. So that way it's relatively easier. Two, which is equally important, is the kind of skills required for recruitment is different from the kind of skills that is required for payroll and compensation, right? So payroll compensation would call for somebody with a very good understanding of numbers, a strong analytical mind, eye for detail, ability to spot errors. So to that extent, I would suggest, if you are currently in recruitment and if you wish to try moving to payroll and compensation, apart from requesting your manager, please read up on compensation and payroll. There are plenty of books available, plenty of online websites and blogs that are available. Please read up on that, and so that you are aware of the content of what requires to be done from a subject matter perspective in compensation and payroll, and then be a then be able to speak to your manager and approach on this topic. It is possible. It is always easier to find that in an existing company than in a new company. The other option that I could think of is you might want to, let's say, if you don't find that opportunity in an existing company, and if you're willing to take a chance, you might want to join a smaller company, because most smaller companies would look at one person for HR. Right? Typically, startups with about say 20 people, 30 people, 50 people, they may or may not be willing to invest in multiple people for various functions of HR. And chances are you might get an opportunity in such functions, such companies, where you can do recruitment plus payroll plus compensation. Yeah, so that's one more way to try and do this. So the key, like I've been saying, is to ensure that we keep learning, we keep ourselves updated, get relevant uh, educational background, relevant programs, uh, to attend professional events, professional seminars, uh, networking events. It helps you know what is happening outside your company, what's happening in your field. Those are important things. And three, keep trying. Last but not the least, keep trying. Network, reach out, have your profile created on LinkedIn for sure. Connect to people, reach out to people. I think all these three are important, especially in today's scenario where things are changing so fast and things are so dynamic.